My name is Patricia Bridges of Bridges Pottery. I'm a potter on the North Shore of Long Island in New York, and I've been working in clay for over 2 decades. In this video, I'll show you how to make a large pot using a combination of slab and coil construction. I'll be using bamboo paddles to shape and decorate the vessel. Along the way, I think you'll pick up some tips and tricks to help you on your next project. To form the base of my pot, I'll use a slab over a form. After cleaning up my slab, I'll cut out a circle. For this project, I need a 12 to 13 inch circle. You can use any rounded form for the base. I'm using a simple plastic bowl. So to keep my slab from sticking to it, I use a light coating of PAM on the slab. My slab's pretty soft right now, so I'm just going to fit it onto the mold with my hands. With some gentle pressure, press the slab downward so that it forms around the bowl. Now I'm going to use one of the paddles, blank-sided paddle, to paddle the sides. With a different paddle, I'll add some decorative texture. I want the base to be even all the way around, so using a ruler and a pin tool in a fixed position, I can mark a straight line and then cut it evenly. As I let the base firm up, I'll make my coils for the next part. I like to use an extruder for coils, so to load up my clay, I'll roll out a log to fill the extruder. This hand extruder can be loaded with several pounds of clay, and you want your clay to be fairly soft so that the extruder won't be too difficult to squeeze the clay out. I'll use a plain circle die cut for my coils. This tool is just like a large caulk gun. Squeeze the trigger and out comes the clay in the shape of whatever die you have inserted. I want to be sure that it's just the right size and malleable enough for this project. My base is ready for more work. Before I add the first coil, I'll lightly score the rim. So it's firm enough now that it's going to be able to support my coils as I bring up the next level. You can see the pretty texture. A little slip and I'll start my first coil. You really want to make sure that this first row of coils is nicely secured to the slab base. To cut the joint, I use a wire tool called a Yumi. I cut it at a diagonal and join the ends. Using my thumb, I integrate the first coil into the base, and then with a rubber rib, I smooth it all out. I begin the process all over. A little scoring, a coil, join the ends, and repeat. How much scoring you need to do and how much slip you need to use depends on how soft the clay is and how well you know your own clay. Sometimes I can do this with no scoring or slip, but just use your better judgment. Again, joining the coils is clean. Cut on the diagonal and use pressure to join. After I have a substantial number of coils, I'll smooth it all together on the exterior in preparation for using my other paddles. You can either use cornstarch to keep things from sticking, or you can actually wet these paddles, and as they're bamboo, they're not going to really absorb any water. They're just going to help keep things from sticking. So I'm going to align this here. I'm going to, with a downward motion, I'm going to go around. So to get the very top here, it's difficult for me to get this in now, so I can use a little bit smaller sized anvil, as it's called. And I'm going to put a little bit of cornstarch on this just because I prefer to use that. So it's a little soft, the cornstarch. And then I can hold it between my fingers like this to get that rounded shape on the top. And I'm going to clean up this lip as well, just by creating a clean line with my Yumi. At this stage, I'm ready to decorate the upper portion of this pot. So I'm going to to put my hand inside with the small anvil between my fingers, and I'm going to use another paddle, which is a bit like a lollipop, and has a very pretty pattern on it. So I'm going to use my hand inside and gently position it and then give it a pat. And I want this a random pattern, so I'm sort of going to go around. I've made a simple lid from a slab for this vessel, and I'll decorate it in the same fashion. Adding a coil to the inside of the lid makes it a better fit. Checking the fit, I need to trim up the lid a little and smooth the edges. My piece has now been bisqued and I'm ready to start glazing. First, I'm going to check the piece to make sure there's no rough spots that need any attention, and I'll use a rubbing stick to remove any of the high points that might be an issue. Be sure to sponge off any dust before glazing. I use a wax resist on the bottom for easier cleanup. First, I'll glaze the inside of the pot. Then I'll work on the outside. I'm going to layer several glazes using some wax resist to highlight the pattern. I'm shooting for an antique look with several glazes overlapping. I'll paint on some wax resist before I put on the next glaze. Here I want to actually remove some of the glaze with a damp sponge, as I only want a hint of glaze. The bottom is then over dipped in just a clear.